Well, hello. Bonjour, I should maybe say. Welcome back to the studio for the latest in our e-commerce world review webinar series, where we're looking at our recently released reports. And today, the topic is the France 360-degree report. And I'll explain a little more about that in a second. But first of all, I wanted to welcome to the studio once more. Joining me again is Geoffroy Riquet from Avalara. So let's just have a quick look at Geoffroy in real life, and he can introduce himself. Bonjour, Geoffroy. Welcome to the studio. Tell everyone a bit about you and also about Avalara, please.
Bonjour, Yann. So my name is Geoffroy. I'm obviously, as you might have guessed, a French representative of Avalara for France. I'm a regional sales manager in the company, and Avalara is a US-based company that has an idea to be part of any transaction in the world by helping companies to manage the indirect taxes. And from the US sales tax to the management of the VAT, GST, and also offering our solution for the e-invoicing, which different mandates will come across Europe in the coming years.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you for saying that so simply. And a big thank you, of course, to Avalara for sponsoring the France 360. But I should also say that the whole 360-degree format was actually invented with Avalara when we were looking at the Australia market. And just to explain the 360, we've always done country-level analysis, econometric, socio-demographic insights to a country or market. We've then done the top 1,000 or top 100, top 500 rankings of retailers. And each year we do about 30 to 40,000 consumer surveys. So the idea of the 360 was to take the consumer view from the research, the retailer view from the top ranking, as well as the market and econometric data, and give a 360-degree view of a market. So whether you're in the French market and you want to get a little bit of a radar as to what's happening, or you're outside of La Belle France and you're thinking of selling there, what are the opportunities and what are the market dynamics? So that's very much the approach. And a big thank you to the team at Avalara for pioneering this with us. But let's have a look at the French market specifically first. And one of the interesting things about this market is it's been such an early adopter in many ways. And one of the things I always associate with the French market is that they were early adopters of marketplaces, probably before any other country in Europe. They were the first to adopt these single checkout, massive SKU range, multi-vendor marketplaces. And if you look at the top of the chart, you can see that by business type, around 47% of the top 100 in France either are pure play marketplaces or use marketplaces technology to extend their SKU coverage. But then at the bottom, if you look beneath it, you can see that in terms of web traffic, 78% of the web traffic going to the top 100 goes to these marketplaces. And so what we're seeing is very clearly that SKU count and product availability very much seem to rule the roost in France. Now, Geoffroy, I don't want you to have to speak for every single French consumer, but perhaps give us a flavour. If we look back 20 years, some of the French retailers were very slow to adopt e-commerce. It's as if they didn't believe in it. But the marketplaces and the early adopters just went large straight away with extended ranges, drop ship, et cetera, and now we see a real sort of give me everything under your brand approach. Is this a fair characterization of the French marketplace, this go large or go home approach?
I think one key to understand from the French market in terms of retail is that our history with big retailing is very long. We had the first supermarket that became hypermarket later on, early stage with the likes of Auchan, Leclerc, and so on. And those guys have been able to reinvent themselves and across the different years and expand their offering by either acquiring the new entities or developing. And one of the key example I would believe in terms of this capacity of adapting and developing new marketplace and offering is, I think, one of the greatest examples is Decathlon, where you absolutely have, when you go on the website, you do have like this openness to everything. Decathlon, Fnac have been able to switch from this model of only selling on within the shops to offering a wide range of products and diversifying their offering from going from the product to the services, etc., etc. So it's really interesting to see how they've been able to adapt and develop. And Cdiscount, the success of Cdiscount in France has been immense. So it's a bit this philosophy of adapting to retail has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Decathlon because they feature very highly in our Europe Top 1000 ranking. And what's interesting about them is they already had an enormous product range, and yet my numbers may be incorrect, so don't hold me to this. But I think we saw something like a near 50% increase in their SKU count overnight when they went to marketplaces. And their approach there was to say, let's now look at categories where we don't already have dominance. For example, let's add in inline skating or ping pong or something, where they could then bring a fully structured range, good, better, best, expert to novice, and provide that range without diluting or getting in the way of their existing strengths and what the customer expects from them. So a very clever approach to marketplaces there. And more or less, I think in France, every web search takes you to either Carrefour or Decathlon these days.
Yeah, it's the same when I go back to France and I go to Carrefour. It's not only a food shop. You've got the food section and you've got your life section on the other side where you can buy everything from computer to dishwashers. So it's this openness to everything. How can we attract more people in, and with the new technologies, how they have been able to adapt is pretty amazing.
Yeah, good. Well, let's have a quick look at those retailers in France who are featured in the top 100. So I'm not expecting everybody to squint too much at this. But I think what's interesting here is just how many of these retailers are French-based retailers. So if you look down the elite group, these are the ones who stand out in all the categories. We have Carrefour, Darty, H&M, Intersport, and Mongo. So apart from a Scandinavian and Spanish addition there, that's a pretty solid French front row. And then again, great names of French retail: Auchan, Brico Dépôt, etc., Castorama, Cdiscount, Conforama, all the way down. This is, Jafar, quite a good result for the home team, if I can say this. It's as if French retailers are doing it for France. Any reason you think why retail isn't dominated by global brands, American brands, international brands, is very much still French?
The cultural exception. Jokes apart, I think for everyone that has spent some time in France, what could explain that, I'm not saying that is the truth, but you do have those commercial zone outside towns where usually around a big supermarket, you've got different shops, type Brico Dépôt, Leroy Merlin, and so on, that are offering their specific product. And the idea of those guys was, if we attract one client into our supermarket, well, let's try to sell them something else within the shops around. So I think I believe that the French have identified their needs towards those specific product to those brands by knowing what's the environment that is surrounding them. Where can they go? If I need this, where can I go? Oh, I know I used to go to the shop, Leroy Merlin, in my zone commercial, and now I can get it online. And the combination with the amazing offering that they do online could, I believe, explain this dominance of the French product. That would be one explanation, I would say, on that point.
Yeah, I think the other thing we're seeing is that the big box operators have really excelled operationally, and so if you think about the logistical prowess that they must have to run so many supermarkets, hypermarkets across France, which again is a much more distributed non-central country than, say, the UK, with its fewer number of bigger cities and urban areas. There's a much bigger spread of logistics capabilities, and so by lately being able to bring that capability to online, the abilities around click and collect, reserve and collect, cross-category shopping, blending your groceries with pickup, some phenomenal capabilities that really have, I think, helped them win the physical game while simultaneously dominating search as well. So very, very interesting. Now, in looking at the market, our lovely editors came up with a couple of points that they wanted us to draw out and look at. The first one obviously was around sustainability and the impact on the French market and consumer. We want to look a bit about the increasing levels of customers shopping online, as well as subscriptions and the demanding consumer expectations. So I think we should just dive into these now and have a quick look. Let's start with sustainability. So this is from our consumer survey. We had 960 consumer responses to this. And I think what's interesting in this, across the 4 questions, is just look at the right-hand side. So we have a vanishingly small number of people who disagree or strongly disagree. So I think what we can say, generally speaking, is that the consumer's desire to have the ecological impact clearly on the packaging, the desire for the retailers to be sustainable themselves with fair workplace activities and sustainable logistics. We can more or less say that at least 80%, up to I think it's 93%, agree with those. So, Geoffroy, it looks like the French consumer is a pretty demanding and green, sustainable consumer, making big expectations of the retailers.
Yeah, I have to say, I think it's a new trend that has emerged, and it's great. I want retailers to have the fair workplace practices. That obviously falls down from all our heritage of the welfare of the worker that we have in our country, where we want to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. So why would we not ask the same for the people who are selling? But I think there's also this conscious of taking the matter of ecology seriously. I mean, as an example, even even the state, the French government has launched a few years ago laws that forbid supermarket and restaurant to waste food. There are taxes on electronic devices to make sure that they can be recycled. So there's all this new mentality that has been embedded into the French market that is great to see. And yeah.
So we drilled a bit into this because if you stop someone in the street and say, do you believe in loveliness and happiness? Then they'd all say, of course. But then we said, well, let's look at your actual behavior for the last year. And we can see now that there is a little bit of a gap between what they say they're going to do and what they actually do. So I thought what was interesting about this is that although the consumers want to have the information, they want the retailers to be sustainable, they don't always look for it. So we're seeing, between a quarter and a half of the consumers don't look for labeling. They don't prioritize sustainable products when they're more expensive. They don't engage in recycling, and they don't always change their purchasing to pick the sustainable ones. So I think what we're seeing is that the consumer is very keen for the retailers to take a lead on this, and they're willing to follow, but they aren't necessarily going to say, no, I'm going to starve to death. I refuse to buy that product. But I think there's a level of dissatisfaction if the retailer and the brands can't live up to the expectations. So change and improvement. And what I should say is if you go to consumerx.net, then you can access all of the consumer surveys, and you can take these charts and slice them to see the difference in attitude by age group, for example, or by income level. And you won't be surprised to know that the younger generations, Gen Z in particular, and to an extent the millennials, are the most demanding. But interestingly, it's not always the most affluent who are making sustainable choices. So have a look at consumerx.net and you can see what's happening there. And just to round off on this topic, I thought it'd be interesting to show the areas where people say they are spending more sustainably. So what we can see is that in clothing, 51% of consumers say they've made a sustainable choice in the past year, with beauty, jewelry, homeware, and accessories doing well. I'm not entirely sure what sustainable books are or what a sustainable alcoholic drink might be, but I think that's just the fun of categorizations. But we are seeing an example in groceries at only 17% and consumer electronics at only 15%. So again, I think with both of these, I'm surprised that that's so low, because most groceries have very prominent labeling. There's quite a lot of effort on sustainable product. And with the consumer electronics, there's such an emphasis in France under European law, at least, but also some additional French regulations around end-of-life disposal, handling batteries, repairability. So I'm just looking at these and thinking, we need to do a little bit more work on it, but all of the categories are higher than the previous years. So that's the positive. Do we think that there's a lot more energy, Geoffroy, in sustainability, or do we think we're now on an established course and it's going to trundle through? Any big shocks or continued progress?
I think it's a continued progress, and I think you mentioned the importance of generations. I can see it with my children, how they are much more aware of protecting the environment than I was at their age. So I wasn't even aware of their age. So I think this, with the growth of those generation, I think it's going to take a different leap. And definitely the push of the French authorities on that will help massively in taking this route.
Lovely. Well, it's good to see the leadership there. Let's have a quick jump into the consumer's expectations. So we've looked at what they are doing on sustainability, but we also asked them, as you're looking to spend in the peak season, so ask them to think about the run up to Christmas, their biggest spending time of the year. What do you expect the retailers to do in order to secure your money? And what's interesting here is the consumer always wants more. More than half of them want free shipping on all orders with excellent customer service. 40% of them want early discounts along with cheap prices. And more or less the same number want exclusive discounts that are only for them because they're loyal customers. And on top of that, they'd like 40% want big promotion days with flexible return policies, and a third would like flexible payments. And there's a wonderful group of 7% who I must go and visit personally, who say they don't have any expectations. So Geoffroy, we spend a lot of time talking about the customer. Do you recognize this customer? She seems pretty demanding to me, with free delivery, promotions, extra promotions, interest-free credit, etc., and flexible returns. Is this the way of the world?
I think there's an English said is you don't ask, you don't get. So that's I think that's to be the mentality. That is where if I'm choosing to buy my product from you, what can you get me compared to the others? And it's a mentality of let's see what you can offer.
Good. Well, look, while they're asking, one of the interesting moves we've seen probably in the last 2 years is the adoption of subscription services. And this has worked in sort of two main ways. Firstly, it's the big subscription, the digital subscription players, who are now taking more and more of a chunk of the consumer's money and attention. So a lot of retailers are trying to work out what they can learn. And secondly, it's retailers thinking, why should I work so hard to get the customer's attention, then a conversion, then start all again? Couldn't I just take their money more often and more easily? So we have been tracking the rise in the paid subscriptions sector. And two charts that come out from our consumer surveys are on the right, the type or the category rather, of the purchases they're making on subscription. And then secondly, what they say are the benefits they get from the subscription. So the real leadership here, of course, is free delivery and fast delivery. And we will all recognize that there's a certain retailer that's pioneered that. So the Amazon Prime approach. This is the biggest subscription service alongside Netflix, where normal human beings feel they have to have a subscription because they need to be able to get whatever they want that day or the next day for no charge. So this has totally changed the way we look at the e-commerce ecosystem. But what's interesting here as well is around more product availability, so specific additional extra products being made available, and then the regularity of groceries and drinks, these subscription boxes, whether it's, I want to try new wines every month, or I want to have my Friday night beer and chips and crisps for a night in front of the TV with friends. And again, on the right, then we can see that where the market is dominant, we have video streaming. We have which again is the Netflix effectively, although other streamers are available. We have delivery payments, And then the big area then are the cosmetic boxes and clothing boxes, with food subscriptions bringing up the rear. So, Joffa, two things. How is this changing retail in the way we talk to our customers? And then are there any additional complications when it comes to taking these payments, especially if they then happen to be across border? So firstly, is this a change to how retail is going?
Well, as you said, it's very difficult, like in any business, to attract customer. And once you have them, it's even more difficult to maintain them. So having this subscription model is in some way making sure that they stick with you for longer. But if you don't expand your offering, then it might go somewhere. So we talked a bit earlier on the different marketplaces, and you've got the likes of Fnac that have. When I used to go to Fnac first, initially it was like discs and books. Now it's everything that you can think that they are offering, with the exception of food. So this offering helped them to, I'm pretty sure, to maintain and keep as long as possible clients. Now, if you are coming from abroad and you want to settle in the French market, of course there are some rules around the different VAT registration calculation. Also, depending on if you are outside of the EU, how will you calculate all the different duties, custom duties that needs to be taken in this. And this is crucial for anyone that will want to attack the EU market, or the French market in particular. Say, have this consideration, have this understanding before you go on it. What are the rules? Because like any government, if you don't respect the rules, then it could be quite significant money-wise. So have you do your studies before, contact the specialist and see how we can help to attack those markets. You're on mute, Ian.
Merci, thank you. I'm demuté now. So I just wanted to pick up on Fnac, because we talked about them earlier on. One of the interesting things about this innovation is how they are using their expertise to create a club. And they've recently announced that the Darty Max has reached 1 million subscribers. And again, we're sort of used to this buying extended warranties. We're used to it when you buy Apple Care with your electronics. But this is nice to see this coming back into the store, where you have a relationship with the store, with the in-store experts, and it's not strictly just the manufacturer. So this is a really nice way of connecting the know-how with the customer and the brand. So a very nice example there. So before we look at just a couple of examples in closing, one of the things, Joffa, that we were talking about the other day was how in France, the retailers, formerly known as grocers, have really made a lot of the running. And when we look at the top 100 in France, then what we can see is that the big companies, whether it's the Carrefour, Leclerc, etc., they are getting the vast majority of the visits. So this is French residents who are visiting Carrefour a couple of times a week. That builds and builds and builds to give them such a big share of the customer's browsing time. And on the right, we've given an example of Carrefour, Leclerc, Lidl, Auchan, and Cora, and how their traffic stands out. So we're seeing them around double the traffic you'd expect, just if all the traffic was distributed evenly. So again, if I'm looking at the French market and I'm looking at the innovations I see in terms of click and collect, in terms of store, in terms of range, in terms of developing retail media capabilities, membership programs. If I look at the landscape of a French town with these enormous shopping centres dominated by these big grocers, to me, France looks like a country that is run by these exceptionally capable grocers. Is that a fair characteristic, Geoffroy?
Yes, yes. They are massive. They are massive, and we discussed about how they've managed to move from this supermarket offering to actually having this kind of within the shop experiences. And when you go and buy your fish from there, you're not buying from a packet, you're buying from a counter with live crabs. So it's going to a French supermarket is an experience that many of the people that I live with in England are always very keen on going to. Now, the counter effect of that is also taking away a bit of the life in towns where people at the local shops sometimes disappear because of those big ones. But they're so big, their offering is so huge that it's difficult not to be attracted to them. And as we say, even in my local small town, it's not only it's Super U there. It's not only Super U. You've got the sports shop next to it. You've got the shoe shop next to it. And within the gallery, you've got different shops and restaurants. So it's very difficult to not be attracted to those by facility, but also by the offering that they have.
Yes, good. Well, I'm sure that half of the people on this webinar are already planning their trips to French supermarkets. So I think nods all round. Let's have a quick chat about Carrefour, because I think they have a special place in the market. They are a non-stop innovation centre. We've already mentioned their size, their variety, the breadth of categories they stock. So all of that is well and good. We've also seen the extraordinary leadership that they've been showing with retail media and via their partnerships with ad agencies, with performance marketing companies, really changing the landscape there. We've seen that they are working very much on second-hand. There's the Carrefour Reborn, RWE Reborn. It's a pop-up at the moment in Belgium, but they're looking at allowing customers to bring items in second-hand, obviously not food, and they can then sell that in exchange for Carrefour bonus points, which you then use shopping in the store. So a combination of footfall, recycling, and then tying the customer in. And of course, they've just completed the acquisition of Cora and Match. I think that brings 60 Cora hypermarkets and 115 Match stores in France. So, another 130 million euros added to the EBITDA line there. So Carrefour just on an enormous, every area you look at, they're driving ahead. They really are one of the standout retailers, not just in Europe, but globally.
Yeah, they go from, as I said, that you mentioned the purchase of Match, but they did not put the name as Carrefour. They put like Carrefour Market, so closer to, because there are little supermarket within towns, and they are like trying to label the new Carrefour as in like a market experience, rebranding it. But it's also moving from that scope of the small local shop in your town to expanding worldwide. Because if I'm not mistaken, they are the second biggest brand of supermarket in the world, and due to their expansion everywhere I went in Europe, I could see Carrefour. I think they might at one point have some in China also. Maybe it's not correct anymore, but
Yes, and LATAM, they have a big presence in Brazil, I think. So, I mean, they crop up for us, not only in the French market, in the pan-European market, but they're also one of the global elite retailers. So, yeah, it's a very, very impressive capability. So, Geoffroy, time is running out a bit on us, I'm afraid. So, we've talked about a market that has a strong representation of indigenous retailers, where we have a wide variety of formats. We have retailers at the top of their game who are extending SKU count, who are operationally excellent and developing new capabilities, whether it's recycling and second-hand or subscription products. It's an incredibly dynamic market, very capable, with at the same time a demanding and sophisticated consumer base. So if I'm thinking, I should enter the French market, they need a little bit of my capability. Any thoughts for a retailer who's thinking now is the time to address the French market?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, make sure that you know what all the legislations or the need to do are before going into the market. Don't discover them afterwards. And then it's depending on what type of product you are selling, where should you be established if you want to sell on in a shop? Should you be in town, without outside town? What is your strategy? And if you sell online, how can you? What is that you can bring that is different to what the French brands already are offering? What is something different that you are going? Why me as a French person, I would say, actually, I would prefer this type of clothes from that company rather than my French local brand. Is there something else that you are offering that would benefit me? Price aside. So what is the message behind what you are trying to sell? And that, if you manage to communicate that message properly with the French audience, there's no reason why it cannot be successful on this market.
Good. Well, that's a very positive note. So, thank you, Geoffroy, for joining me in the studio for a whistle-top overview of one of the leading markets in Europe as well as the world. So the report will either be already in your hands. If so, let us know what you think, or by signing up for this webinar, be assured that we will send you the link so you can download it and enjoy it yourselves. So you will get that and access the France 360 report. Now, the ink isn't even dry on the PDF and our research continues. So do let us know if there are other areas you'd like us to look at, if there are questions we should be asking the French consumer. If you'd like more in-depth analysis on any topic, drop us a note, research@retailx.net. That will get through to the whole team. We'll have a look over that and build in the suggestions for future editions. And do also have a look at consumerx.net if you want to get a much more granular view and allow a bit of slicing and dicing of the consumer data. All of that is available there. And again, it's an open beta. We'd appreciate your thoughts on improvements and things that you value within that. So I think that's it then. We have hopefully an enjoyable summer before the madness of peak season again. So Geoffroy, thank you so much for joining me in the studio and for your insights, as well as Avalara's support for our research. And we'll leave you to enjoy the report, and we'll catch up with you again in the autumn for an update on what's happening in the French market. But for now, it's goodbye from the studio, and we wish you happy trading.
Au revoir.